AIPAC strains credulity would be a massive understatement. In case you haven't seen it yet.
Outrageous claims suggesting that it's AIPAC or IPAC. I don't even know how it's pronounced. IPAC, that is funding this show or other creators.
Thank you to basically the entire internet for immediately going back and finding footage as far back as 2019, where Pakman can clearly, capably pronounce AIPAC correctly.
AIPAC, support AIPAC.
A few moments later.
Outrageous claims suggesting that it's AIPAC or IPAC. I don't even know how it's pronounced. IPAC, that is funding this show or other creators.
David, I think the only outrageous claim being made today is by you that you...
Is she seriously fucking... Is she serious? Over basically a fucking jab or a joke at the fact that people believe that he's being, was bought by an AIPAC, and that's just an outrageous claim to him, and he's just sitting there making fun of said claim. Is this serious?
You don't know how to pronounce AIPAC. You want us to consider you a serious, independent journalist and a reliable voice of the new media, and you don't know how to pronounce AIPAC. The arguably largest source of foreign influence in our government, the largest source of money pouring in to elected officials in both the Democratic and Republican Party. After watching that clip this morning, I actually spent a little time watching some of David's old videos, and one stuck out at me in particular. This is from about a year ago. He has a segment where people on his Discord can ask him questions, and somebody called in and asked, why is it that what Hamas is doing is viewed as terrorism, but what Israel is doing is not? It's viewed as moral or okay. And this was David's answer.
Please show. I told this whole episode, so I hope she plays the entire thing.
Like the way they talk about Israel is not the same way that they talk about Hamas.
Okay.
It killed more civilians than Hamas.
Well, listen, there's two different things. Your first assertion was that what they're saying is that when Israeli civilians die, it's terrorism, but when Gazan civilians die, it's moral. I asked you who said that, and now you're taking a different claim, which I think is maybe one we can engage with more, which is just that
Wait, I hope she acknowledges that. She's asking who said that.
there's different treatment of Israel and Gaza. Is that more fair? Is that what you meant?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, listen, there's two different things here. One is there are some media outlets that have a bias one way or the other, and that can explain how they cover the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. There's another aspect to this also, which is that there's a difference between civilians as collateral damage, which is still tragic, but different than a policy of finding and killing civilians. Now, I know just by saying that, lots of people will be furious with me and they'll say, David, Israel does have a policy of deliberately...
David, Israel does have a
No, go back to the... Okay.
policy of deliberately targeting civilians. Pakman's stance on the genocide in Gaza has been...
She's not going to go back to it. I hate this type of fucking videos. It's this is juicy. This is a juicy topic, and you have the whole fucking footage. Play the whole entire video.
Indefensible for quite a while now. Similarly indefensible is the United States government's position and support for the genocide in Gaza. That support has increased significantly under the Trump regime. The deaths of civilians have increased dramatically since Trump took office. Now, I covered this a number of weeks ago when I was discussing famine across the world and how we are seeing increased food insecurity, and how famine is not just a naturally occurring consequence of natural disasters or droughts or however it's been fed to you, right? Famine is a man-made construct. It is an intentional act meant to starve civilians. Too many people in the United States have been fed this lie, right? The Irish potato famine was just something that happened because of the potato blight, despite the fact that farmers in lots of places around the world had no trouble feeding their populations when there was a tomato blight. I think too many Americans are ignorant of the fact that a famine is the last stage of a hunger crisis. It is entirely preventable, and more often than not, it is an intentional choice by a government, men in power, to starve vulnerable people. It is an intentional tactic in war, in genocide. It is obviously a human rights violation, and it obviously is targeting the most vulnerable because it is children that are between 2 and 4 times more likely to die in a famine than adults. It is always something that is targeted at civilians. And obviously, again, I talked about this weeks ago, but it bears repeating. The Trump regime intentionally, partnering with Israel, removed all of their aid distribution sites, would not let international aid.
I honestly believe that there was a certain candidate that said all of this shit was going to happen, but a lot of people decided I'm gonna not vote because I don't like that the fact that the previous administration, was funding Israel, so we're just gonna not vote. Or you voted against them and voted third party, or you even voted for Donald Trump thinking we just needed something different. Well, congratulations, you got something worse. Somebody who doesn't give a shit. So I mean, like, come on.
Workers come in, including UN aid workers, and decided to have only 4 sites for food distribution, all of which were overseen by IOF forces. Again, I described how that happened in great detail. You can go find that video on my YouTube. It was an intentional tactic. They knew people would die. Lots and lots of people, lots and lots of children would starve to death. And in fact, Human Rights Watch has said Israel is intentionally killing Palestinians who are desperately seeking.
Yeah, I believe it was confirmed a genocide. Was it the UN or the what is it? I believe it what professionals and officials have officially considered it a genocide, right?
Food. Not only are they depriving people of food, but the limited points at which you can collect food are basically creating a fish in a barrel situation. According to Human Rights Watch, US-backed Israeli forces and private contractors have put in place a flawed militarized aid distribution system that has turned aid distributions into regular bloodbaths. IOF forces and private contractors of the United States government are killing starving civilians who are trying to get to a very limited supply of food to feed their starving children. Yes, David Pakman, that is an intentional choice. As Human Rights Watch has so clearly articulated, Israel is intentionally using starvation of civilians as a...
I think you're using the word intentionally. She's right. It is an intentional choice for them to do it. I feel as if when you go back to the video that she did not let play fully, hopefully this video's not over. She probably will go back to the rest of that video. She would understand and see that that's not his intent, not to say that. What Israel's doing with the intent of intentionally starving children is something that he endorses, which, I'm assuming, which is where she's going.
A weapon of war. They're not collateral damage. They are the intended victims. This is a genocide, and you have been unable to say that, David. Instead, you have continued to regurgitate propaganda from Israel, and yet you expect people to believe that you are a credible voice of the...
Okay, my biggest problem is like I rarely hear David Pakman talk about Israel and Gaza, period. So I don't know how I can myself conclude that David Pakman is a voice for Israel. He rarely talks about anything foreign. David Pakman more so talks about domestic issues, what's going on in America, less about what's going on outside of America. That's just from what I see. And again, not everybody has to call it a genocide. I understand how sensitive that is. I believe that it's a genocide. I believe that Bibi Netanyahu is a war criminal. I believe that as soon as he loses power, he's going to be tried as a war criminal once he loses power. I believe that the only reason this is still going is because he's afraid of losing power, and and he knows he'll be tried as a war criminal. All of which he knows this is the only reason why he keeps doing what he's doing. And of course, our president of the United States is not going to assist him since that Bibi Netanyahu was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. Why would he do such a thing? But not everybody has to call it a genocide. We all do not have to walk the same fucking path. If you want people to stop talking about Gaza, period, if you want people to stop talking about the genocide that's happening in Gaza, if you want people to stop talking about the starving children, the dying children, how the IDF is assaulting prisoners and Palestinian prisoners in 4K. If you want people to stop talking about that, you're doing a really damn good job at it. When we consistently do this thing, it's like, okay, I call it this, you have to call it this. It turns people off. It literally does. Because you can easily look at there and say, this is a humanitarian crisis right now. But if somebody doesn't want to call it a genocide, but they can understand that what's happening is wrong and it should stop, and it is a bad thing, good enough for me. That's good enough for me. Because forcing somebody to say something that you want because it makes you feel, I don't know, vindicated, it makes you feel better, is going to do the absolute opposite of what you want to accomplish. You cannot force a David Pakman, right, to fucking say, oh, this is a genocide. This is a genocide. Like not saying it's a genocide doesn't mean that you are complicit and you are endorsing it. People have to understand this. You're not helping Gaza. These videos are not helping Gaza. This is doing the fucking exact opposite.
The new media of independent journalism. I really encourage everybody to go read a piece in The Guardian that came out on July 31st by Emma Graham Harrison. It's entitled The Mathematics of Starvation: How Israel Caused a Famine in Gaza. According to this report, Israel calculated how many calories Palestinians need to stay alive, and then they're intentionally only letting a fraction of those calories in. Not only have they basically ended all farming in Gaza, they have also banned all fishing. Every single calorie that Palestinian families need to survive must be brought in from outside of Gaza. I mean, we know that Israel has been manufacturing a hunger crisis in Gaza for many, many years. They have just now escalated it to the state of a famine. According to this reporting from The Guardian, Israeli officials have been intentionally putting Palestinians on a diet, calculating how many calories the population needs, and then intentionally limiting it since
This is 100% true. I believe I did a video on this while they were arguing back and forth on this on Piers Morgan. They're literally calculating and counting calories. They're literally doing that to starving people. They're literally teasing them with food, basically. What's going on is a humanitarian crisis. There's a genocide. There's an ethnic cleansing going on in Gaza right now. That is undeniable. But not everybody is going to get on board and call it what we know it to be. And shit, that's fucking okay. It's okay if people look at it as like, this is wrong. Innocent children dying is wrong. Not to say that that was a year ago. I want to know, this was like a year after, I don't know. It's September. If it was the exact year ago, this was, I don't know, 1 year after, close to the anniversary, the first year anniversary of October 7th. So I honestly don't understand these videos. I don't understand it. Like, what are you trying to, what do people hope to accomplish by these specific videos? She just dropped knowledge and education and updates. But now it's being smothered. Her comment sections aren't going to give a damn about what she just said. They're going to more so be flooded with people talking about, I knew David Pakman was bought by IPAC. I knew David Pakman was bought by Israel. Some shit like that. It's like, come on, man.
2006. The Famine Review Committee, an independent group of experts that scrutinize IPC alerts, said food shipments have been highly inadequate. Their analysis of the food packages supplied by the GHF shows that their distribution plan would lead to mass starvation, even if it was able to function without the appalling levels of violence that have been reported. Even if they were not shooting civilians who are trying to get food to feed their children, those children would still be starving. Famine is an intentional tactic. It is a war crime. Israel has calculated this down to the calorie. I can think of no greater red flag that a news outlet or journalist is not credible. You should be suspicious of their motivations and what they are saying than if they continue to spin what is happening in Gaza as anything other than a genocide.
And that's what turns people off right there. We can't force people to think this way. We can't do that. They'll do the exact opposite. You'll push them away. Fuck it. You'll make people with big ass platforms just be completely anti-Gaza because you're going to shove it down people's throat that there's a genocide going on. We know there's a genocide going on. They're protesting. They're protesting for the genocide. They're protesting Israel. What bugs me about these type of videos is that, one, the full video is not played. 2, it was a year ago. 3, I wonder what his stance on it is now. And 4, the only reason she's talking about this is because some fucking whack-ass article by a whack job decided, oh man, what, Democrats are doing something to raise up the influencers on the Democratic side so we can, fight the Republicans in the media. It's fucking sad. It's fucking sad.
Continue to diminish the harm that the Israeli government and the IOF are doing to the people of Gaza, that person is, in my eyes, not a credible source. And for someone to act like they don't know what AIPAC is, when they have skewed their reporting to be staunch.
Yeah, basically, my take on this is that people are gonna feel how they want to feel, right? If she wants to feel that David Pakman is a human piece of shit only because he didn't call, he's not calling what's happening in Gaza a genocide, and he has a different opinion, while not justifying it at the same time. I guess it's something that we want to do. We want to keep doing this type of shit because it's going to make people, want to join the cause and join the coalition. Let's keep pushing them away, correct? I think that's going to work. That's going to work. Yeah. Let's go find David Pakman. Actually, I'm curious. He says he gets a call, right? Yeah.
Let's get back to Discord
5
and
minutes
hear
and
from a
42
few
seconds. You only play about what, 20 seconds, 30 seconds of it.
more people. Why don't we go to Haman from Boston? Haman from Boston, welcome to the David Pakman Show. What's going on? I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
You are. Thank you for taking my call, David. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right. Thank you so much. So I just had a few questions for you about the Israeli-Gaza war, and I wanted to get more clarification on
So
that. 'Cause I
basically-
haven't heard you address this on your program.
What I want to hear in this video is David Pakman justifying what Israel's doing. I want him to say that they should keep doing this. I want him to support and endorse bombing Gaza down. That's what I want to hear from this conversation. Not the 30, 10, 20 seconds you played. That's what I want to get out of this conversation. Let's go.
So I'll have three questions for you. So the first one is, what is your plan, or what plan would you think would be the best for getting more aid into Gaza? Since I've heard on the news that there's been a lot of problems with like getting enough food, and a lot of people are like hungry and food insecure there because of the war. And then my second question
Let's
was,
take them one at a time. Can we take them one at a
sure.
time?
Absolutely.
So I would say three things on aid. I would say number one, continued and more pressure on the Netanyahu administration to allow aid in. Number two, look at the possibility of.
So let's talk about the first one. Having a conversation with this caller about aid, food to Gaza, to Palestine, to people in Gaza. He literally said more pressure on the Netanyahu administration to let in more aid. Pressure on the Netanyahu administration to allow more aid in. Third time, pressure on the Netanyahu administration to allow more aid in. That's 1 point. She did not give him credit for that.
Of working with Egypt, which has a border with Gaza, but has its own reasons for not wanting to get involved. And number three, look at bringing it in directly from the water on the coast, which the U.S. is now doing. Those would be my three ideas.
I see.
So notice, and again, I hate bringing this down, but the previous video that I had to make it more shorter, once again, was disingenuous and did not play the entire thing. I get it. We don't like David Pakman. I understand it. Anybody who doesn't call what's going on in Gaza genocide is a bad person. I understand that bullshit. That's fine, right? That's your opinion. Great. But let's not lie.
And then I guess kind of relating to that.
So far, pressure on the Netanyahu administration to get more aid in. And probably the alternative, right, is going through different borders, Egypt, as for example, the surrounding borders, to try to get aid in from those locations. Number three, through the waters, like the flotillas. I guess that's the other way that they could get more aid in to Gaza right now. So this, like, for me, this is it's in the fucking video, and it pisses me off that it's in the video.
Support like a permanent ceasefire in Gaza right now?
I would absolutely support a permanent ceasefire if both sides were willing to do it. As I've said before, and as Bernie has said, and Hamas has said, they will continue trying to do the attacks like on October 7th. So practically, I don't know how you do such a ceasefire, but I would completely support an end to hostilities if both sides were willing and stuck to it. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. And my final question was, I'm assuming your answer will be no. So I'm assuming that you don't support a ground invasion of Rafah. Is that correct?
No, I don't.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you so much for answering my questions and taking.
All right. Haman from Boston, thank you for the call. Let's go next to, I don't know. How about Kenji from Iowa? Kenji from Iowa, welcome to the program. What are you thinking about today? What's on your mind?
A silly question, but what do you think would happen if, and I'm not even sure if this is just an SEC rule or if it's a law that protects investors. What do you think would happen if they change the priority of protection to protect the consumer first?
You're saying which law? Are you talking about the fiduciary responsibility of publicly traded companies?
Exactly. So what do you think would happen if they changed it so that they would instead protect consumers first?
So I think it would be very so I guess first of all, I don't even know what the legal basis would be for such a change. It sounds really tough to me, but I think the bigger the change that's discussed more often is a responsibility to all stakeholders. And when you say all stakeholders, you include not only shareholders, but also customers, citizens of the planet who would be affected by pollution, employees.
Now I'm trying to figure out what she saw. Now I'm confused now because let me see if there's another one that David Pakman did about Gaza. I'm trying to figure out if there's another one that might be longer and specific. Let's see. Actually, let's talk about this here.
All right, listen.
This
is really ugly. I expected some of this. I expected that when on Monday I went to you and I said, listen, guys, I'm going to tell you about what happened in Israel. I'm going to talk about this terrorist attack by Hamas. The MAGA right is unhinged on this issue. Some on the far left are very wrong on this issue. I'm going to tell it the way I see it. I do every segment the way I see the story. I knew that some of this was going to happen, but it's still a really disappointing and difficult thing, more because of my concern for the future of the left. Okay, here are some select emails of my own, not just people in my audience, people who were paying for memberships, people who liked what I did enough to pay. Check out some of these emails I received. First one's from Chris. Chris says, David, your woeful mischaracterization of Hamas as a terrorist organization is laughable at best and downright ignorant at worst. To claim their attacks on Israel were terrorist attacks? Unbelievable. Did you even bother to dig deeper, or do you just parrot what's popular? I don't want to be associated with a platform that's so out of touch. Cancel my membership and refund me.
Okay, wait, no, first of all, fuck your refund. Number two, why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult for people to acknowledge that what happened on October 7th was a bad thing? It wasn't good. I would consider that a terrorist attack. There was a terrorist attack, I believe it was like in London, and there's like 300 people that died that night. That was a terrorist attack. Innocent people. Motives unclear, right? I still think I think it was just a regular terrorist organization that committed a terroristic act. If Hamas had attacked, if Hamas had attacked Israeli soldiers on a military base, maybe I wouldn't call it that. But that was a terrorist attack. And if you're committing a terrorist attack, I think by definition you're a terrorist organization. Just like I believe the IDF is now a terrorist organization. The initial response, I get it. Somebody attacked you, you gotta attack them back. But it's been 2 years now, and you're still doing the same thing. You know you're not killing. You know you're not killing any Hamas agents, and you know you're starving children to death, and you're killing children. Tens of thousands of children are dying with your bombs. You've been told this, and you're still doing it. IDF is just as much of a terrorist organization as Hamas is. That's my opinion, right? I don't understand why it's difficult to say October 7th was a terrorist attack. It seems as if that same event happened here on American soil, regardless, it will be considered a terrorist attack. If it would have happened somewhere else other than Israel, it would have been considered a terrorist attack. And it fucking pisses me off that I have to say that, because fucking IDF and Bibi Netanyahu are the ones who perpetuated this fucking nonsense in the first place. Bibi Netanyahu is the one who approved the funding for Hamas in the first place. This is his monster. But at the same time, what happened to those people? Some of them, not all of them, were citizens of Israel. What happened to those people, those innocent people who were at a concert, raped, murdered, tortured, kidnapped? That's a terrorist attack. If you can't say that, bro, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be associated with you myself. If you can't say that that's a terrorist attack, I really have to question your morality from that day forward. If I know you personally, I would have to question your morality, bro.
Now, what do you want me to say? Oh, you know what? I just lost $6 a month. I'm sorry. It wasn't a terrorist attack. It was legitimate resistance. No. I don't say things to my audience that I don't believe. Okay? So this is a bummer. This is bad for the show. This is someone who's saying, hey, I don't like your opinion, and so I'm going to do what I can to financially hurt what you're doing. But I always do every story the way I see it. Here's another one. This one says, hi, I'd like a refund for my membership, and you can delete my account from your website. Part of being progressive is covering the news, irregardless of how uncomfortable it may be. You've shown that you're unable to take constructive feedback, information, or any other opinion than the narrative you would prefer to share with your viewers. That's not really progressive. It's just privilege, and yours shows. Please reimburse me. I have the view I have because I'm progressive, and I've explained it many times. Here's another one. David, every time you open your mouth about Hamas or their response towards Israel, it becomes painfully clear you haven't the slightest clue. Their actions were not acts of terror. Maybe try understanding the context for once. I won't be funding this farcical platform any longer. Cancel my membership and give me back my money. You need it more than I do, perhaps for an education. It was a terrorist attack, and I'm going to continue to say that. But here's a positive one, okay? This stuff is out there. This is somebody who wrote in and actually thinks what I'm saying makes sense. This is from Timothy. Timothy says, your excellent moving treatment of Israel's war. Thank you for your outstanding discussion of leftists, rightists, progressives, and the war between Israel and Hamas. So many excellent observations, so forcefully presented. I doubled my subscription. Keep up the great work. Timothy from Oak Park, Illinois. So listen, I'm always going to do the stories my way. That's it. You're not ever going to wonder, am I concocting some view in order to achieve clicks or getting people to get memberships? Okay? I have never taken any position on this program to appease anybody so that they'd get a membership or not cancel a membership or restart a membership. So we're going to take losses. We're seeing a consolidation. And this is a real test. This is a real test of, are people willing to actually look at the facts? Or are they so ideologically committed to packages of views that they say, well, here's the totality of what a progressive believes, and that's it. We're going to continue doing what we're doing. And some people won't like it, and they'll cancel their support. And if enough people do it, maybe it will hurt the show. But the alternative is what? Me contriving views in order to try to calculate what's going to piss off the fewest number of people. Give me a break, guys, okay? So we've lost some members. If you want to replace some of these folks who are canceling, angry in this way, you can do it at joinpakman.com. I would love to welcome you if you believe what we're doing here is valuable. And I would also say, if you don't like what I'm saying and you don't want to sign up and support, that's okay too. You don't have to. Nobody has to. Everything here is optional. We're doing this show every day and making it available for free to everybody. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can certainly find alternatives where I'm sure. We're starting today with developments and follow-up on the situation in Gaza and Israel.
I think that I'm not sure if this is before or after. I think this is
and this is going to be a little bit of a different segment. I hope you'll bear with me and let's go through. And there's some structure to this, but there's a lot of things that are just sort of on my mind that we're going to talk about. So let me first just contextualize what we on the show have kind of been experiencing with the audience over the last week.
Is he wearing the same exact shirt? Or is it? No, that's actually.
Last week, I told you that there were a number of people, I believe to be a relatively small portion of my audience, but certainly very loud, who are really angry with me, who feel that I am getting it wrong on the Hamas terrorist attack, that I am missing context, that I am just a reflexive defender of Benjamin Netanyahu because I'm Jewish, which of course, I'm not a defender at all of Netanyahu. I'm actually a critic, and I've been a critic of Netanyahu for as long as I've been doing this show. And some people, probably now about 24 people, canceled their paid memberships to the show. And I mentioned this last week and I said, listen, to me, I hold the views I hold because I'm a leftist, because I'm a progressive. I made every effort to explain that. And some people just don't accept it. And either because they feel that I don't know, I guess deserve to have funding taken away because of my opinion, or because they can't support a show with which they don't agree 100%, or for whatever reason, and it is their right. A couple dozen people have actually canceled their memberships to the show, and that's sad to see. At the same time, I am flattered and humbled that we had record new members come in after I explained what was going on. Over 400 new paid members signed up over the weekend. It's genuinely flattering. I'm completely humbled, and it is really a pleasure to see that there are people who, based on the signups and based on the emails I've gotten, kind of seem to understand what it is that my perspective is and value it to some degree. I want to look at a few of the emails that I received. Here's one from Teddy, who said, I'm a new member because of your uncompromising honesty about Israel-Palestine. David, I've always been fairly liberal, but I mostly listen to conservative media. First heard you on the PBD show. I'm not a fan of PBD, but I like listening to people I disagree with. Your show is the first political show I've ever paid any money to. And it's because I respect principled viewpoints. Your view on this issue is hard for many on the left to accept. Keep up the good work. Damien wrote in saying, shocked by these confused progressives. David, I'm just shocked by people emailing you claiming to be progressive and defending the abhorrent Hamas terrorist attack. I expect this brain rot on the right, but not the left. I increased my membership to counter people canceling support. Thank you. Jennifer wrote in, David, the progressives that have renounced their membership aren't progressives. There's nothing progressive about their hard and fast rules. You know what isn't progressive? Being openly understanding and empathetic to raping, burning, and decapitating by terrorists. So maybe there is one hard and fast rule of progressivism. Thanks for all you do. I'm not going anywhere. We then got another email from Stuart.
And that's one of the reasons I have to question people who try to convince me or tell me that what's happening or what they did on October the 7th wasn't a terrorist attack. Like they dismembered people. They did rape people. They did kidnap people. They did murder people. They did take them back and torture them. This is the thing. They did take hostages. And while you can say that the IDF plays a major role in this and there's some history for that land and maybe it was occupied land, it doesn't change the fact. It doesn't change the facts at all. We would be saying the same thing if a bunch of random Israelis resistance group or whatever was to hop the fence and attack Palestinian people. It would be a terrorist attack if it was coming. And I'm sure that's happened. But it will be a terrorist attack. A terrorist attack is a terrorist attack. It's a terrorist attack. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
In Australia, David and team, I just watched your most recent show, which indicated a few people canceled subscriptions. I appreciate your balanced coverage, so I thought I'd get another membership. Keep up the good work. Liza wrote in, says, new member here. David, I've been a fan of your YouTube channel for many years. I always told myself I couldn't afford to donate to my favorite content creators, but I saw your video about the negative responses over your Hamas criticism. They're a terrorist group who've committed atrocious acts. Of course there's context. I can't imagine defending them. It's repugnant. I'm glad to support you now. Please keep doing your good work. And lastly, Pete said, David, thank you for your
comment. I think the terrorist attack, or the context that people are referring to, I could be wrong. I think the context people are referring to is the history of that land and basically the history of the beef between Israel and Hamas. I can't get into the heads of people who would look at that, what happened October the 7th, and say that it's not a terrorist attack. I don't know why they won't admit what it actually is, while at the same time wanting people to admit that what's going on in Gaza is a genocide, which is happening. Like, I don't know why people choose not to live in reality. I don't get it.
Coverage of the terrorist attacks in Israel. I just signed up as a paying member. Huge fan, grateful for your voice. I will gladly reach out and get you more members from my network. So listen, everybody who canceled, absolutely fine. Everybody who signed up, I appreciate it. But I want to now take the time to mention a few things that I think are important. I hope that at least on these things, we will all be in agreement. First of all, a bunch of people wrote in saying, David, you are simply biased because you're Jewish. Not religiously, I'm culturally Jewish, ethnically Jewish. And so I saw dozens of comments and got a handful of emails from people saying, they like me well enough, but on this issue, I can't be trusted because I'm Jewish and therefore biased. This is a really scary right-wing argument that the right has used for decades to dismiss the opinions of people they don't want to listen to. It's a bad argument, and I'll tell you why. In whatever way I am biased for being Jewish, you would have to argue any Palestinian is also biased for being Palestinian. And what that gets us to is, so I guess you can't be Jewish or Palestinian to be able to comment without bias. So therefore, who is it that we're listening to? The right wingers used to say this about LGBT rights. They would go, of course the gays want all sorts of stuff. They're biased because they're gay. We can't listen to them. And we all on the left said, that's crazy. During the Iraq War, the warmongers would sometimes say, if you haven't served, you don't get to have an opinion about whether we should invade Iraq or not, because you're biased against the military by default. And we said that's a bad argument. So this idea, by definition, definitionally, this is an identity politics disaster. I'm culturally Jewish, so therefore I can't possibly say anything of value here. You've got to apply that as well to Palestinians. And of course, it's crazy because everyone with an opinion is biased. When people say, David, you're biased, this is an opinion show. That's right. Anybody giving an opinion is biased. You're simply saying you don't like my opinion. You don't like that my bias is different than your bias. You're saying, I don't want to listen or support you because on this issue, you've come to a different conclusion. Now, the truth is, it should be okay not to agree with everybody all the time. There's many people in the audience who disagree with me on GMO. I've looked at the science on GMO foods. There doesn't seem to be any health concern with eating GMO foods. Pesticides, sure, but there doesn't, and some people in the audience disagree. All right. Many of the people in my audience who oppose looking at nuclear power as a bridge to renewables are basing their opinion on the safety of nuclear power on 50-year-old technology. I have a different view because if we did new nuclear, it would be based on new and different technology. Maybe we disagree. It's okay to disagree. So the concern to me is people who just want me to have the same opinion they have and only support in that case. That's totally fine if you look for shows where you agree with the host on every issue. I don't find that super compelling. It's just some people have different opinions. Now let's get to context. There are folks who have recently said, David, you have not given context in talking about this terrorist attack. You haven't talked about Israeli settlements or Benjamin Netanyahu or whatever else the case may be. It is true that not every time I talk about this issue, I give my opinion about every element. If people want me to, I can include that stuff every time I talk about this issue. I have been unanimously against the Netanyahu administration for as long as it has existed. I believe Netanyahu benefits from not having peace. There will likely never be real peace under Netanyahu. There also will never be peace under Hamas. And then when I say that, people go, oh, but you shouldn't even talk about the Hamas part because the problem is only as well, but now I mentioned Netanyahu and that I'm against him and you're still not happy. Settlements. I'm against settlement policy in Israel. I was against shutting off electricity and water to Gazans who are mostly innocent. I can say this stuff every time, but what I find is when I give context, people don't like the context or find it insufficient. I could also.
That's because people want you to like what they want to like. I don't like the state that we're in. I really don't like the state that we're in. Like literally, this Taylor Lorenz article is only getting pushed because of the Gaza situation. Look at the comment sections of Brian Tyler Cohen. Look at David Pakman's sections. Look in Taylor Lorenz's sections when she talks about it. It's because they don't talk about Gaza or Israel enough. That's the crazy part about it. If their platform was all about it, they wouldn't give two shits about that damn article. They wouldn't care about that damn article. But like, this is just the state we're in. You have to agree with me on everything. It's crazy. Like, trust me, if that's the case, go find yourself some content creators that do that. David Pakman is one person. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of individuals who speak about Palestine and Gaza and Israel all the time. It is their main content. Go find them. Go boost them. Those are individuals who have probably 100 followers, 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers. Why don't you take it upon yourself to go there and boost those platforms so they can get heard, so they can get placed on the algorithm so that they can get more people to see it. Therefore, if you want to talk about just that, if your only concern is about Gaza, change your algorithm. Because David Pakman is not just about foreign, he also talks about domestic. So when you have somebody who covers not just foreign and domestic, you're not going to always get, what you want when we're constantly talking about the Palestinian Israel thing. Like I don't know how else to explain it. I think people really are an adult here and need to start acting like that. What's going on in Gaza is a genocide. The blockades from aid is crazy. Had a call with callers trying to give reasons or ways that they should be able to get aid into Gaza. Listen to this video here about what he actually disagrees with. But if he doesn't call it a genocide, He's a horrible human being. You're going to unsubscribe. Fine. If you only want people to call it a genocide, that's you, that's your prerogative. I call it a genocide, but I don't need anybody else's validation for me to continue to call it what it is. I don't need David Pakman to call it a genocide in order for me to believe that it's a genocide. I don't need that. Other people might need that for some fucking reason, but I don't need that. Again, if you are that individual that needs that, my opinion is to go find those content creators. They're everywhere. All you have to do is type in hashtag Gaza, hashtag Palestine, hashtag genocide, and you will find the content creators who talk about this constantly. Those content creators need people to listen to them because those content creators have a voice. And instead of wasting your time on Hackman's platform, you won't harm him. On Brian Tyler Cohen's platform, you won't harm him. Go boost the voices of people who are actually talking about it. Doing this doesn't help Gaza at all. Doing this doesn't have Palestinians or children that are starving at all. You're wasting your fucking time.
Also argue that there are people writing to me who are also not considering context. I've had conversations with them where I go, you know, the worst time to get a good deal is when you're losing a war. And at this point, it can't be said that Hamas is winning this thing for Palestinians. And if you go back to the 1947 partition plan, it was a 50-50 divide of the land, which at this point would be a fantastic deal, I believe, for Palestinians. They rejected it in 47 because they believed Israel should not exist and should have zero land. And then you talk about the 2000 Camp David summit, and you talk about Bill Clinton's attempted negotiation and the rejection of all of these deals. That's part of the context as well. But David, you won't say that in 67 and 73, Israel stole more land. Well, that's missing context. Israel was attacked by Egypt and Syria in 67. And so they defended and were able to claim land in war as happens. Does that mean I love it? No. But to say that on a whim in 67, Israel said, let's take some land, isn't what happened. In 1973, Israel was attacked by Egypt and Syria, and Israel defended itself and made gains. So whenever people say there's missing context, you're also missing context that's relevant to understanding the history. And so at the end of the day, there's a movement from the left that I think is misguided, which is to say, this is super simple. This is a simple issue. And when people try to interject nuance and say, you really have to understand 47, 48 and 67 and 73 and the negotiations under, no, you're trying to defend Israel by making it seem complicated when really it's simple. Israel's bad, period. That is not the nuanced sort of thinking that I encourage. And if you don't like that, then this probably isn't the show for you. There are shows which just will tell you Israel's uniquely bad, period, and that's it. As far as the happenings over the last few days, the water was shut off. I was against that. It's back on thanks to Joe Biden. Reminds us of the importance of who we elect president. Do you believe that Trump would have pressured Israel to turn the Gazan water back on? No. Reminds us of the importance of who we elect here. There was this 24-hour warning given to Gazans to leave. Of course, leave to go where? They can go south, but obviously Egypt doesn't want